Hi and welcome back to the Titanic build. In this episode I finally got round to painting the hull, but before I could start putting any paint of any sort on I needed to give it a good wash down with soapy water and a wipe down with rubbing alcohol. I then coated all the brass and photo etch parts with metal prep. This is just so it gets the paint to stick better to these metal bits and pieces. For primer I ended up using the Mr. Servicer 1500 in grey, and also filling it with Mr. Colour Leveling Thinner, which I mixed sort of 50-50 mix. The main reason I'm using Mr. Servicer is because I find it really good for sanding, and obviously once it's primed you can see what things look like. You can see areas that need a little bit more attention. So after priming, I found that there was a lot of sort of melted spots on the plates on the underside of the hull, and this is caused from using this Tony extra thin. So going forward, I wouldn't recommend using it because, as you can see, I've had to do a hell of a lot of rubbing down, filling, just to get this sort of level in places, because there was a lot of like indents in the plates, some worse than others, you can see there. But yeah, so now I'm going to put it back into another coat of primer, check it over again, and hopefully it's ready for painting. So I also replaced the photo etch stone cleats that I got from Mini Bars because I just couldn't get the smaller ones on, they're so fiddly. So what I ended up doing was replacing these with some 3D printed stone cleats from China 3D. Right, so in regards to paint, I actually got the Scale Colours Titanic paint set, or some of the colours anyway, from the set. And I was lucky enough to get these, although he doesn't ship to the UK. I've got a friend who lives in the States who was kind enough to let me ship them to her, and she actually brought them over to the UK for us, so I'm really lucky to have these. And they've actually been discontinued since then, so yeah, unfortunately you can't get these going forward, but they are meant to be heavily researched to be as accurate as what we know. Obviously it's impossible to get exact colours because no one knows exactly what things were painted. But yeah, I'll be spraying them at roughly about 18 to 20 psi, using my Neo for a water airbrush. And fingers crossed all goes well. Overall, I was really happy with the anti-fouling. I then masked off for the black. Um, Before I started putting any paint on, I sealed it with some anti-fouling red to stop any of the bleeds going under the tape. What I didn't know was the tape that I'd used was actually by a company called Frog Tape, and I've since found out that they've actually got a powder coating on the very edge of the tape, which reacts with the water in any sort of water-based paints, and also helps to seal the paint from bleeding underneath as well. Here I'm just spraying on the dark mask colour for the inside of the world decks. I did this for a couple of reasons. Firstly, so that it sprays black into the holes on the insides when I do the black on the outside. Secondly, so that when I paint the white later, I can do the inside of the world decks as well as doing the outside. So after re-inspecting my line, I noticed the waste ports here shouldn't be in black. They shouldn't be black till about here, somewhere about here. So I'm re-masking off, and I'll do the same again. I'll spray a quick coat of black just to seal that tape there, and then I'll have to re-brush everything in the anti-fouling red. Right, I'm filming this after painting because actually when I done it before painting, looking back, it didn't really make a lot of sense. So hopefully it does this time. So when it comes to doing the yellow line, or the shear line, I wanted this to carry on across the whole edge of the top for two reasons. One, I've seen pictures and renderings where it seems to have a very small white sliver across the top of the well decks. And two, so that when I put the superstructure on top, the two whites meeting, hopefully try to help lose the fact that there's a join there. So to do this, obviously I painted the black first, so to do this, I know that the back should be around 1.14. So I just got bits of styrene and marked each side at 1.14. And also in the centre, it should be around 1.27, so I've done the same again. It's not an exact science. I think as long as it takes straight, it's the main thing. But this is to give you a rough idea to make sure you're going in the right direction. So I started tapering it around here, so it actually thins off from about here. It gets thinner as it gets. It's barely noticeable, to be honest with you, but it makes a difference, especially when it comes to the back here. with the writing, because I wanted to, again, trying to keep a little bit of a gap between the Titanic writing, because I didn't want that to look a bit out of place and too close to the shoe line. So what I did is, obviously I've started here, worked my way around and got that down to 1.27 using these little bits of styrene, or 1.14, sorry. Using these bits of styrene, I can then hold it up to the edges and make sure that the dots are in the right place. Right, and then what I did was, this is about 1.27 here, yeah, just under them dots. I held that there and then measured down, and I think it was around 2.1, something like that, and then made a third one. And then all I done was just made sure that from here, this yellow line, I'm going to get the camera in the right place, this yellow line was underneath, or this far away from the edge at all times. Then the last thing I had to do was to obviously mask off the white, which was, to be honest, the easiest one, because all I had to do was tuck the tape in just underneath this lip, you know, all the way around. Although the lip does taper off here, so I had to half make my own one around this edge, just keeping the same sort of thickness all the way around the back. But going on to the sides, it's just a case of keeping that very thin edge all the way along. Right, so now the painting's pretty much done on the whole. I've just got to do some touching up. So you can see I've got a little bit of bleed here, so I'll just lightly dust that in. I've got a little bit of paint peeled here, so again, just lightly dust over those. And also I had some overspray here, which I've cleaned off, but it's also made this area extremely matte. So I'm going to dust that in again, because I'm hoping that once I put the clear coat on at the end, to protect the paint, that'll also give it like a matte finish as well and take the shine off of it, because it looks a little bit too new at the moment. So overall I'm pleased with how the painting's turned out. I've still got to give it a clear coat, which I'm waiting to be delivered, and once I know that it's not going to react with my paints, I can put that on and also start sealing the portholes and getting the model watertight, and then we can actually start building and piecing it together. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.